This is my October 2021 statement in SRS. Inside, you'll see there's more than 250,000 worth in terms of stock holdings. And if we add in a portfolio, the total value is at least $280,000 already. Since 2010, I've been contributing, and that was when I was 26 years old. So to me, this entire portfolio, it's almost a given that you'll become a $1 million portfolio when I'm reaching the retirement age of 62. And if you haven't contributed to SRS before, my suggestion is start your contribution this year, because government has indicated they'll raise the statutory age to 63 sometime mid of next year already. So once you've contributed, you locked in the prescribed retirement age, which is 62. And that's why we're going to have this topic of 1M SRS. And when you hear some of the points I'll be raising later, you kind of know that I'm qualified. You kind of know that I'm also on the same boat as you. So without further ado, let's roll in the intro video. Hi guys, welcome back. Without further ado, let's start with the rule of withdrawal for SRS first, just in case you're still not too familiar with it. Indicated by IRAS is once you start withdrawing, which is from the age of 62 onwards, you actually have a 10-year window for withdrawal. After which, at the end of this 10 years, any amount that is not withdrawn or any stocks that is still not sold off yet is deemed to be withdrawn fully at that 10-year mark. The second rule is any amounts you withdraw when you reach the retirement age is 50% tax, which means if you withdraw 100,000 in the particular year, 50,000 will be qualified as income and will become tax. Conversely, if you withdraw $40,000, only 20,000 will be considered as income and taxable. And if we see in this IRAS tax schedule, you realize that the first 20,000 is free from tax, correct? Therefore, any withdrawals of 40,000 a year without any active income should be tax-free. That is why I've seen forumers mention before. The best goal in SRS is to aim for only 400,000 so that you withdraw 40,000 consecutively for 10 years. And actually it can be seen as 41,500 if you are also a Singaporean citizen male, because we always have that 1,500 for NS man relief, correct? So the total amount might be perceived to be $415,000 in SRS when you reach the age of 62. And with that amount, nothing will be taxable. That logic sounds correct, but later I'll try to debunk it and explain very clearly why I think 1M SRS is actually okay. I'll give you exact figures for it. But let's use a hypothetical example. Someone at the age of 32, contributing 30 years of the max 15,300, will eventually contribute $459,000. And if that investment pot is growing at 8% per annum, the total figure when he reaches age of 62 will be $1.733 million. So if this person decides to withdraw $173,300 each year, what that means if we understand the rule of SRS withdrawal is that $86,650 will become chargeable income, which can be taxed, correct? And I've actually done the calculation already. That equates to $4,114. And keep that figure in mind, because up next I'll explain why it's actually okay to pay taxes and how you can actually perceive this tax equation correctly. Now let's use back the example of this person age of 32, and let's assume that his chargeable income is $95,300. Again, chargeable income is not the full income because I've already assumed certain reliefs to it, like CPF contribution relief, child relief, parent relief, etc, etc. So if the remaining chargeable income is $95,300 and this person decides to contribute $15,300 to SRS, the total amount he'll save in terms of tax is at the 11.5% bracket, which equates to $1,759.50. Now just now we assume this person is able to grow his investment in SRS at 8% per annum, correct? What does this $1,759.50 actually mean with 8% compounding 30 years later when he reaches the age of 62? That number actually is $17,705, which means any tax savings now, if you compound it across 30 years, would become that $17,700 anyway. And if your money's become $17,705 in 30 years, why not pay $4,114.75 in terms of tax? So if you also have the choice of having this amount at $17,700 in 30 years time, that $4,000 plus in tax suddenly doesn't seem very unreasonable, correct? So the next question is 8% per annum growth for 30 years seems unreasonably good. I've actually done some alterations to the math to help you visualize it. So assuming now the growth rate is 5%, this same person at the age of 32 contributes $15,300 for 30 years all the way to the age of 62, the total amount that this person will be seeing in the SRS account will be $1 million. That is why we have this title today, 1M SRS, which is a small adaptation from the very popular 1M65. So in this situation of having $1 million at the age of 62, if you withdraw out $100,000 per year, what it means is your chargeable income becomes $50,000 from the age of 62, and the tax at that chargeable income level is $1,250 per year. But this amount of $1,250 again is future dollar money. Right now, if you're in the chargeable income bracket of 11.5%, for example, the amount of tax savings is already $1,759.50. So you already save more. The equation is definitely favorable. Let's expand the topic a bit further. If conversely your investment return is less than 5%, or you end up losing money because not all investments turn out well, correct? It's actually even more favorable now to contribute to SRS because that gives you today's dollars savings. And on the other side of scale, if you do more than 8% per annum, you do say 10% per annum for 30 years, it's actually a good problem to have. Yes, you do need to pay taxes, but don't have that mindset. I don't want to have high income because I don't want to pay taxes. That is incorrect. Tax is a variable cost, which means if you have more income, that is a good problem to have. And with that iron out, let me address a second other concern that I see very common in forums, which is this. Tax rates could actually increase 20 to 30 years down the road in Singapore because we have an aging population problem, correct? You think about US, you think about UK, the tax rates are so high over there. And that actually sounds quite logical also. Will we raise tax rates in future? Nobody knows for sure. But I'd like to share with you that this is actually a worry that could be a waste of your time. Why so? Firstly, I'd like to counter that concern with a few things. How often have we seen Singapore government make rule changes that affect existing cohort of people? You think about ABSD, you think about statutory retirement wage increment, you think about CPF Life, how they segregate cohorts. My question is, will existing SRS holders necessarily need to follow future tax rules or not? It seems to me, again my personal opinion, that when government makes rule changes, usually the existing cohort follows a different rule as we migrate between rules. This is typically because we try to achieve fairness for all cohorts of people. The second way I'd like to counter that concern is that we haven't really factored in inflation to the chargeable income in future, correct? Let me flash up again the current tax schedule. You see over there that the first 20,000 is not taxable. But you know inflation affects everything. It affects food prices, it affects transport prices, it affects house prices. And last but not least, it also brings up income for everybody. In 30 years time, 20,000 annual income is going to be really small. So if you follow this train of thought, could the tax schedule be increased? Because if we inflate $20,000 income with a 3% factor for 30 years, that schedule could suddenly look like $48,500 for a tax-free amount in 30 years time. Again, nobody knows. I'm trying to put fairness to the equation. This concern is future, we may have more tax rates, but we also need to consider in future, the tax-free amount might be way bigger than what it is today. That is why I would like to suggest that what you can control right now is your own tax bill. What you can control is how you invest this SRS amounts. Thankfully, more and more people have moved their SRS towards investments. We see over here that cash amounts and fixed deposit amounts for SRS has dropped. More have allocated towards shares, REITs, ETFs. A sizable amount still allocates towards insurance, which are either endowment plans or annuity plans. And this part is going to be very important as you understand the 1M SRS concept. And before we get to the numbers, let me invite you to smash the like button because it's taken our team hours to prepare this presentation for you. And smash our subscribe, especially if you like investment ideas as well as retirement planning concepts. You know, we talk about 1 million in SRS and I've thrown a lot of numbers at you so far. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comment sections. I'll try to help you address them. But this part is also something very important for you to understand what to do with your SRS monies. Do you know that SRS monies can be parked into a lifetime annuity plan? And when you do so, only 50% is taxed. And an annuity plan actually pays the money for a lifetime, correct? And let me show you what's mentioned on IRAS. For investments into life annuity, the 10-year withdrawal window does not apply. So long as you continue to receive your annuity payments for life, the same 50% will be subjected to tax each year. Now this becomes very powerful because the previous constraint is you need to withdraw everything in 10 years. And if you withdraw hundreds of thousands, yes, some portions are going to fall into tax. But if you purchase an annuity plan, Do you now realize that you can space out this 10-year window to a lifetime window, which means you can take out less each year to become tax-free, and you can stretch this payment to give you a lifelong retirement income stream. Don't take my word for it, this is also mentioned on Aviva's website. It's stated over there, if you have a high balance, one possibility to save on taxes is to buy a lifetime annuity product to spread payments out. And let me share with you some numbers to conceptualize. I'm a regulated advisor, which means I can't show you benefit illustrations, but I can share with you general concepts. If we use $1 million, we can actually buy plans that can guarantee us about $2,300 per month and have a further non-guarantee to step it up all the way to $3,800 per month. The non-guarantee portions is of course at the higher end, 4.25 projection range. And if it does really pay $3,800 per month, that is about $45,600 per year. There could be some small amounts that could be taxed. But again, this is $1 million stretching from age of 60 all the way for lifelong. And to do a further strategy, we can even do a hybrid approach, which means you withdraw $40,000 each year for 10 years, and then the rest you convert to an annuity plan to pay you from 72 all the way onwards for lifetime. Let's read an example from Prudential. At the age of 62, John has $500,000 in his SRS account. He decides to invest $100,000 into a single premium endowment plan, and John opts to start payouts at age of 72. That ensures that even after he has withdrawn his SRS fully, he will still receive a guaranteed monthly income flow from his endowment plan for a lifetime, and as mentioned, 50% of the payouts are tax-free. So there are definitely a lot of ways that you can optimize your SRS withdrawals in future also. And that's why my conclusion for today is, if you are in a high income tax bracket, then it definitely makes sense to contribute to SRS. The key worry is how to grow these amounts properly. Can it be grown at 5%, can it be grown at 8%, or even 10%? If it grows well, that's a good problem to have. In any case, in future years, if your work takes a hit, you decide to retire early, there is no obligation to contribute SRS in your later years also. SRS is voluntary. If there's no active income, there's no need to contribute. And if you have active income and you're paying taxes, perhaps I've helped to address some of the concerns so that you can contribute and invest your SRS with a peace of mind. And with that, I'd like to invite you to one of my previous videos where I've shared about net worth. Maybe that is a topic that can help you further understand how you can build your own personal finances. And towards the end of this year, I'll be doing an update for it. So remember to smash that subscribe and also check out this video. With that, I'll sign off. Take care and goodbye.